Well, that was an interesting moment. I'll just play it for the audience, and then we'll get your reaction to it. The audience knows we're not huge fans of Mehdi Hasan here at the MK Show, but we're going to watch this with an open mind. Here it goes.
I mean, I'm glad you played that clip, because all day long, the Trump campaign have been saying, it's a comedian, it's a comedian, it's a comedian. It wasn't just a comedian. Park the comedian and what he said, and you still have Rudy Giuliani, you still have his childhood friend, you still have his donor saying the pimp handlers.
That's right.
Just one of those people 10 years ago would have ended a Republican campaign. You didn't even get through all the clips. There was still Tucker Carlson doing replacement, Don Jr. did replacement, and then Trump himself turned up and talked about invading and occupying our country, which is the language of the far right. He talked about enemy of the people, which is Joseph Goebbels. He talked about enemy of the enemy within, which is literally Hitler. I mean, these are my problem is, I get it. Nobody wants to be called Nazis. It's very inflammatory. But if you don't want to be called Nazis, stop doing it.
You've been called an anti-Semite more than anyone else's table.
Yeah.
And people will sit there and... No, by me. I never called you an anti-Semite. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying...
I'm a supporter of the Palestinians, so I'm used to it.
Yeah, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. The thing is that...
Did you just say I should die?
You should not...
No,
Did you just say I should be killed?
No, I did not say that. No, I did not say that.
Hold on.
Did your guest just say I should be killed on live TV?
I said I hope you don't...
Guys, let me just stop.
You said you hope my beeper doesn't go off.
Because you said I'm a big supporter
of the Palestinians.
Hamas?
Guys, let me stop.
Palestinian. Are you?
Am I what? No, of course I'm not.
I
apologize.
Are you a racist, violent person inciting violence against
Ryan,
That's disgusting.
that is completely...
No, I apologize.
That
Good
is
job, CNN.
completely
Let's have first
out
block
of
say the
pocket.
Muslim guy
You
should
know
be
that.
blown
I
up
apologize.
on
I
TV.
apologize.
Don't say then I apologize. You literally...
I thought you said Hamas. I apologize.
You didn't think I said Hamas.
Yes,
I said I
did.
supported Palestinian rights.
Yes, I did.
Why? Because when you hear
What's funny
Palestinian,
is
you
Rudy
hear Hamas.
Giuliani said this yesterday, so you're a great guest to be here to defend Rudy Giuliani.
I
wasn't going to entertain nonsense today, and so at this point,
This is what we're in
I
now.
can't
This
do
is America in
Here's what I
2024.
will say.
Forget the
Here's what
racism.
That's right.
It's I should
That's
die.
right.
That I should die. Okay, so what happened there, Ryan?
Okay, so let's just backtrack right before that happened. So I had been on the show. This is my fourth time, technically 3 times in 1 quarter because I didn't last more than a segment. The producers had changed the entire script or most of the script right before the show. And I was really irritated because rather than doing a segment on foreign policy and on inflation, we were doing multiple segments on this. So I went in very irritated and in the wrong mood, truly. Before even this clip played, they played like 2.5 minutes of the Madison Square Garden speeches. And the woman to my right, Ashley Allison, who has been extremely rude to me in the past on the network, was making comments, oh, white man humor, this is white man humor, this is white man humor, repeatedly. No one said, hey, Ashley, cut it out. Then we go into the segment, and when he said Nazis, he looked directly at me and the former Congressman, Scott Taylor, who is also a Republican. He wasn't talking about just people at the rally. He was talking about us. And then, I did not really know a lot of Mehdi Hasan previous to being on the show. I've never tweeted about him. I've never talked about him. But then he said that I had called him an anti-Semite. Now, I know his history because of like the 24 hours or 48 hours beforehand that I Googled him. And he has said vicious things about a lot of people, especially Jews, especially Israel. For him to sit there and say someone else who's got Jews in his family, who was the most pro-Israel president of our lifetime, say he is Joseph Goebbels, the hypocrisy overwhelmed me. It just literally overwhelmed me. He was not cracked down for calling us Nazis, not cracked down for accusing me of calling him an anti-Semite, which I never did. I literally never did. And it was just, I don't know, I just had enough. And I was just like, you know what, I'm making a snide joke. I don't care. At the point afterwards, Abby was like, Ryan, calm it down. I don't think you could hear over talking. So I was like, all right, I'll apologize. I'll settle everything down. I did not say I hope there was violence against him. I did not wish him death. He was completely making it up. Segment ends. He storms off. Abby was really quiet. Abby was like, is he leaving? Ashley was like, I think Ryan should leave. I texted the producers. Abby asked me to step out. I said, okay, sorry, didn't mean to get you in any trouble with any overheads. Being professional, said that to the producer and to the talent person at CNN, said, it was just a heat of the moment. And they said, we understand, it's just like not right for the segment. And then I left and didn't really think anything of it. And it was just then blew up extremely, literally. No pun intended. But it just went crazy, and they said I'm banned from the network. This is a network. Now, I'm very grateful that CNN had me on as many times as they did in the month that I was on. But this is a network that has people on constantly who say horrendous things about Republicans, horrendous things about Trump supporters, horrendous things about Trump himself. Never disciplined. And it was the immense double standards that no conservative can really live by, unless they are a self-hating conservative who's going to sit there and tell them all the time why I hate. Unless you're Adam Kinzinger, you can't survive in that environment. So I kind of always knew that my time there was ending. I actually thought I would be kicked off the show at the last segment because it was a segment with Brian Stelter on Accuracy in the Media, and I was just going to sit there and tell Brian on air, you need to apologize for lying repeatedly on this network about Russiagate, about COVID, about Stormy Daniels' lawyer that you had on, I was going to sit there and have a moment and say, no, you're being lied to on this network constantly because they care about a narrative. And I was like, this will be my last episode, but I'm only in till the election. So go big or go home. They're never going to have
that.
Me back
That
anyway.
never happened. I thought you were referring to the one where you challenged them about the Ferguson effect and that no one knew what the hell that
happened
was.
a week
Did you have the thing
yeah.
with Brian Stelter?
No, I was kicked off before the show, before I could have that moment. But that was my planned exit on the show. I know.
That would have been better.
I know. And I literally, it was just a snide remark that I said. But that was my third.
Okay, but wait, I want to go through it though, because I do want to go through it.
Sure.
Because I do understand CNN has very high standards and they don't allow incendiary rhetoric on their show. So we tried to look through the CNN annals just to find if there were any examples. I mean, it was very, very hard. I'll show you the paltry examples we came up with in SOP 54.
As a black lesbian who Donald Trump doesn't believe has genes as good as his, is he going to attempt to exterminate me
why do you
when
believe
he gets
that, Aisha?
elected?
Why do you
Because
believe
he's
that?
damn near said it. That's why, David. That's why.
Because he's
okay, and I'm not
has
going
he
to be
said that,
lectured by some white man who has no idea what he's talking about.
We have to stop demonizing people and realize the biggest terror threat in this country is white men, and we have to start doing something about them. There is no white guy ban.
Trump is as destructive a person in this century as Hitler, Stalin, and Mao were in the last century. He may be responsible for many more million deaths than they were.
Osama bin Laden was a
terrorist
who committed a horrific act against American people and against our republic. And I believe that Donald Trump is a terrorist who committed horrific acts.
You voted for Trump. You voted for the person who the Klan supported. You voted for the person who Nazis support.
Boomer Rube demo that backs Donald Trump, that wants to think that Donald Trump's a smart one, and y'all elitists are dumb.
I don't know, Ryan. I feel like there might have been a double standard.
Yeah, and none of that, those things got covered in the New York Times and the Washington Post. Kamala Harris's team sent out memos about my appearance with my comment because I had formerly worked for Senator J.D. Vance when his campaign in 2022. The amount of negative coverage I got was so overwhelming, so one-sided, because here's the thing that you, like, to your viewers who don't ever have experience in cable news, here's how cable news really works. You get a memo, and sometimes, as in the case of this show, sometimes as little as 30 minutes before airtime, saying this is what you're talking about. And you could have no experience in that type of conversation whatsoever. So in 30 minutes, you have to learn about the subject, think about what people are going to sit there and say, think about how you're going to control the narrative, because with liberals, you cannot let liberals control a conversation, because you always have to control the conversation when debating liberals. You have to know all that. So when you sit there and watch cable news enough and you say, how is this person talking about this issue? It's because they got booked and just they happen to get pegged with this issue. A lot of them are not experts in the issue. They don't have a long time to talk about it. And a lot of it's for their own self-promotion. So it's a very hard and very toxic environment at times.
This show encourages honest conversations, which isn't easy in today's media environment with big tech deciding who and what gets amplified. Well, there's a news platform that prioritizes free speech and transparency without controlling the narrative. Ground News. Ground News is an app and website that aggregates related articles from around the world, highlighting each source's political bias and corporate influence. Here's an example. Recently, CBS News told their staff not to refer to Jerusalem as being in Israel. And guess who didn't cover this? Left-leaning media. On Ground News, you can see more than 90% of the coverage is coming from right-leaning sources. Ground News has an entire blind spot feed with stories like this that are receiving lopsided coverage. It reveals how media narratives are shaping the conversation, and they're offering our viewers 40% off their Vantage plan, which gives you unlimited access to their website and app. They are independent and supported by subscribers, not corporate interests. Check them out at groundnews.com/Megyn. That's ground, GROUND, news.com/Megyn to take back control of the news you consume. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.